Hello, MGTOW. Hello, men. This is Howard Dare. Thanks for stopping by. So, I want to talk about feminism, Judaism, and Islam, and the connection between them. Now, this video comes to us as a request from my good friend, Lon Bliss. And here's what he has to say. Howard, I would like to request an idea for another video. I know the feminist march has been discussed, but I have not heard this issue being discussed. Why is Islam wooing the women? Very basic question. This sounds very ridiculous, winning the approval of women. I mean, men control everything, right? Let me rewind and talk just a bit about religion. Religion is usually passed down through the family unit. The family unit is controlled by the caregiver, usually the woman. Let's look at Judaism. If your father is Jewish and your mother is not, you are not considered Jewish. If your mother is Jewish and your father is not, you are Jewish. Why is this? Why is the Judaism passed through the mother and not the father? Men will change their religions and ways of living to get with women. Very simple. We all know some guy who has changed religions or even became a vegetarian to be with a woman. This is a character flaw of most men. Something to understand is that Judaism has been around for 4,000 years as a religion. History goes back further. And this was a culture that until recently allowed multiple wives. They allowed multiple wives, but still understood that the women were the ones that carried the religion to the children. So, even in a culture where men have multiple wives, women still had an advantage over men. They control what was most important, the family. So, getting back to the feminist march, where the women were wearing hijabs. If Islam can convince women to accept Islam, the men will follow. If a woman is wearing a hijab and asking her husband to go to mosque, he will go to keep the wife happy, especially if she is screwing the crap out of him, complimenting him, and encouraging him to go. The women will voluntarily wear the hijab and accept Sharia law upon themselves. The men will follow. The funny thing is that women will say, like the communists, we will practice the religion differently than the other countries. We are enlightened. We know how to do it correctly. They will bring oppression upon themselves. I have a Muslim friend, and we talk about women sometimes. He has an arranged marriage, and he is a good man. He did tell me, though, that in his culture, on the wedding night, you have to kill the cat. In other words, in the Muslim or Pakistani culture, men are taught to make sure that the woman knows her place and that it is below the husband. If you do not do this, the woman, by her nature, will rule over the man. He did not say what you had to do to kill the cat, but I thought it was an interesting cultural practice. Thanks, Howard, and I look forward to your reply. Okay, that's a great question, and thanks for the request, Lon. Now, whether you realize it or not, these are the issues around which civilization is now spiraling. And there's really nothing for me to say about the particular details about your request, for me to agree or disagree with. Like, yeah, why is Judaism passed along down the female lines? This is true, okay? This question allows me to address these critical issues. So let me just get right into it, okay? And a lot of people are going to find this shocking because I'm going to need to say a lot of things that I don't directly say in my videos, but they need to be said, and this is the time to say them. Indeed, Judaism is passed along on the female side. Reform Judaism says that, if you have any parent, that you're Jewish. Now, I've looked into some of the reasons related to this, and there's this, there's that, there's the direct connection, the biological connection between the mother, whatever. That's not the important point. Here's the important point, and it's going to upset many of you. We are a Judeo-Christian civilization, culture, and we are gynocentric. We are female-based, and it's not the worst thing in the world. You would never have hospitals. You would never have male industry turned towards societal, civilization, cultural wants and needs. You'd never build schools if this wasn't the case. We are a Judeo-Christian civilization. Now, you can look at the basis of science and reason and rationality in Greek-Roman tradition, but it's uninformed by humanity. So there's your enlightenment and the idea of turning these values, these male values, science, rationality, reason, logic, towards what you could say, these female interests and female ends. Compassionate interests, compassionate ends. And it is largely the basis for civilization. So who's Jewish by the culture and the civilization that we live in, and you can go to Nietzsche and look at the inversion of values, enslaved morality, how this male-dominated culture gets turned towards these, female interests. And to just think that, and that's bad and evil would be a very simplistic interpretation of what's really going on. Or even to attribute like that idea to Nietzsche would be too simplistic. Now, there's Judaism, there's Judeo-Christian, and it's based on sacrifice, male sacrifice, individual sacrifice, which is going to be male. And it's worked out pretty well for us, hasn't it? It sure has, until recently. And that's feminism, okay? Because what you've got with feminism is the cancerous expression of these values just taken to the absurd degree, ridiculous, to the point of, these men that are taking care of us, providing for us, science, logic, reason, we're going to put all that shit aside because we've got that shit mastered. And now we're going to go take care of these men from this other culture that actually have not failed our shit test, not capitulated to the feminine. We are a female-led society. And if you disagree with me, go ahead and have an argument with your girlfriend or your wife and watch how she behaves and watch how you capitulate, right? And then listen to how you say, it's because I'm a real man. And I don't fault you for, going down that road, right? Because if she starts to cry, what are you going to do, right? If she's really getting upset, what are you going to do? So, I've posed this question and I've had a hard time expressing it. Can these female values, this view of the world, go too far? Can it become toxic and poisonous? And the answer is absolutely. That's exactly what's happening. The empathy of the, the mother bear taking care of her cubs, or dinosaur, right? Cuntosaurus, protecting her brood. If you wind up on the wrong side of that, even accidentally, it's merciless, it's brutal, it's vicious. Welcome to feminism. Welcome to intersectional feminism. I don't mean to ignore the issues directly in the request, but it just allows me to go into these larger issues. Yeah, why are feminists willing to wear the hijab? Because of intersectional feminism. This idea that all of their complaints and all of their unfulfilled desires are attributed to the patriarchy, all of it. Which is to say that if she gets a traffic ticket, it's because of the patriarchy. And the answer is feminism. And the answer is blame the men. That's the reason for feminism. So, people say feminism, it's about equality. No, it's about blaming men for female biology. It's about, blaming men. It's about blaming capable, intelligent, rational-based men for the shortcomings and the problems of a dependent class of people. That's what feminism is. That's the basis of it. But it is this expression of this Judeo-Christian civilization and set of values, which are not bad, which are not evil. As I said, you don't get to have hospitals without them. But then you go too far with this. You indulge it too far, and it becomes this toxic feminism, which is used to destroy the men within the civilization. Now let's contrast that with Islam, okay? Because respectfully, which they don't deserve it, and the larger group sure does, but culturally you're talking about 2 or 3 generations removed from the Bronze Age, okay? So you've got none of the cultural civilization development, you've got none of the compassion, you have none of the concern for women, you've got none of the concern for children, you have none of the concern for the suffering of others, you have none of that, right? You just have this brutal, practical, male-based world. And guess what? The West needs some of that back. I know it's a crazy situation, right? But these are the forces that are at conflict right now. And what is MGTOW in relation to all of this? MGTOW is the realization that this female gynocentric aspect of Western civilization has gone way too far, and you don't want to be a sacrificial animal to that bullshit. That's what MGTOW is. So MGTOW is this hope of getting back Western civilization. Now, some men will say MGTOW is just men hating women and, just going, doing that. Bullshit. MGTOW is men hating women in the way they fucking act now. All right? MGTOW don't inherently hate women. They're not gay. They don't deny their biology. I mean, they can do what they want, of course, individually. An individual man can do what he wants, makes his own decisions, but they need to be informed decisions. He's not a puppet on strings. He needs to be an independent man who, is essentially embodying the Nietzschean Superman. Okay, that's another aspect of MGTOW, because it is a man who decides his own values. And in this case, it is the values of the worship of this Christian God, of this feminine ideal, which in and of itself, not a bad thing, really has helped build Western civilization, but taken too far becomes feminism, where you're drugging little 8-year-old boys in schools because they don't sit still like little girls, right? And you're saying, whoa, women are doing great in school, because you've warped the entire educational system around them. And you've said that this is what represents good work. And you've demonized all the behavior of the men and the boys, even though that's what's built your civilization. And now it's coming to bite you in the ass with this clash with Islam, with terrorism, with unrestrained, violent male behavior. Okay? And the women within Western civilization, in this Judeo-Christian value set, are willing to go along with that other cultural set simply to stab their own men in the back. Intersectional feminism, because every single problem that she has today, right, like her makeup is irritating her face, is to be blamed upon the men in charge. And it's not logical. It's not anything you can reason and ration through with a female. This is, overly privileged, overly entitled, overly coddled, without the emotional development and social skills and tools to interact in a real world. That's why they want their safe spaces. That's why they freak out. That's why you can't reason with them. That's why there's no, that's why they're just pitching their fits and using Nazi tactics to fight what they claim to be, our fascist Nazi male government leaders. And the enemy of their enemy is their friend, intersectional feminism. And every problem that they have is blamed on the men that they perceive to be the leading class in their civilization. And it's not reasonable, and it's not logical, and it doesn't make any sense, and it won't work, but it protects them emotionally, and it allows them to destroy. It's kind of like you're losing a game of chess, and you just flip the board over. That's what it is. Now, I really have only just touched on, some of the basics of this, and I've kind of used Lon's question to, bring up these other cultural issues. But in closing, I would say that, in summary, that the Judeo-Christian ethics are gynocentric and to serve, female wants and interests, to build a civilization in a very humane, compassionate way. And it's not a bad thing, okay? But it's gone too far. It's as if we've embraced these values without evaluating, why we're doing it, right? So if the woman starts to cry, like if a female is standing up in Congress and she says, I want to drop a nuclear bomb on these innocent people, and you say, that's absurd, we're not going to do it. And then she starts to cry and says, are you being a sexist? Do you hate women? And the men are going to go, oh, okay, well, we'll go along with her and do it. So you see, that's what I'm saying. It's this appeasing of the female aspect of our civilization and our nature has just gone way too far. It's become cancerous. And that's feminism. And of course, these forces are now coming into conflict. And the MGTOW men going their own way are the men who are turning away from this worshiping of the women, but it doesn't mean that they hate women or won't get together with women and things like that. I mean, that's an individual decision, right? But I think that that's some of the ways that these forces are interacting in this dynamic, in this variable. And I know I've just kind of touched on the surface of it and maybe might not have even represented the relationships and interactions between these variables, the dynamic properly. But I believe that there is this interaction, and I believe that this is largely, the main sources and the conflict that we're looking at and that we need to get a handle on. So, and I believe with Lon's assessment, that the men will just go along in order to get together with the women, because these men, they have been raised in this female dominant Judeo-Christian value set, and they want to please those values in order to get ahead. I mean, this is how they're going to get their jobs. This is how they're going to get together with women. But as I said, it's gone too far, and it's a betrayal to masculine nature, which is based in reason, logic, practicality. So these things are coming to a conflict. So you as an individual man, you can't give yourself over to this worship of women, right? It will destroy you. You can't give yourself over to the worship of anything. You, as an individual man, as a MGTOW man, you have to be the one who decides. You have to be the one who determines your own values. Now, as a young man, I don't really see how that's too practical. You have to learn the ways of your culture and your society and your group just to get along and then to get ahead. But then you have to come to realize, that you're essentially a puppet on strings, and you have to cut those strings. You have to get rid of those strings, and you have to start bringing your own values in. Otherwise, I mean, I believe that this is what destroys the men internally, psychologically, and this is why so many men are walking around so lost, especially physically, that this mindset of serving the female interests and then judging your worth based on those female interests, it's just completely destructive to the man, because there's no way he can really do it. Some bitch is always going to be like, we need more money. You didn't provide enough, just on and on and on. And then you go to this, this other culture, Islam, right? Where it's like, no, they're putting the woman in her place, right? They're not taking any of that bullshit, but at the same time, they're not building any hospitals, and they're not taking care of anything. So these are some of the dynamics that I think we need to be looking at. Let me know what you think about this, and I'll come back to this subject in the future. Let me know what you think about it in the comment section below. Please like, share, comment, subscribe, donate. I'll put it to good use and help, build up the Howard Dare channel and spread this message, which I believe is helpful to men, giving insight to the social dynamics and the situation that they're in, so that it's like they don't get caught up in like a meat grinder, okay? So please join me again, Howard Dare, as I plan to have more content for you. Thank you, MGTOW.